Hi guys, welcome to our Mastering REFramework in UiPath. In this playlist, we are going to understand REFramework in step by step. Okay, so in this video, we are going to understand my playlist agenda. Then we are going to understand how we can explain this REFramework. Okay, means high level of explanation. So my playlist agenda is first of all, I am going to complete the high level explanation of this REFramework. Then I'm going to complete the project transition as a queue item having dispatcher, small dispatcher integrate with performer. Here we are going to understand why dispatcher and performer is separate. Okay, then after this, again I'm going to create one video. So that process is nothing but a dispatcher process and performer process, that is a separate two process. So this is the second. So next, so I'm going to create one more video, that is a process transition as a data row and process transition as a string. And finally, we are going to understand deep level of explanation. So how we can explain the RE framework means deep level. Okay, suppose you have more years experience. Okay, means like 5 years of experience, 8 years of experience. Then how we can explain the RE framework? That is a very important part. Okay, we will discuss into that video. Okay, so like first of all, we are going to understand how we can explain the RE framework. Means what? A high level of explanation means pressure to up to 2 years of experience. How we can explain the RE framework? Okay, so in industry, people are going to work on this template. Means they are going to use RE framework, but they are not able to explain the properly in interview. So that's why people are going to fail in interview. So like question is explain the RE framework. They are not able to explain properly. So I'm going to understand that problem, and I'm going to create this new playlist, that is a mastering RE framework in UiPath. So all video is very important. So before watching this video, please subscribe to this channel. Yeah, so let's get started. So so first of all, how we can explain this RE framework? So I'm going to open this RE framework. Okay. So yeah. So I'm going to start my explanation. So single line is very important. We concentrate on that. Okay. So first of all, so when we can, what is this RE framework? So RE framework is a default framework which is given by UiPath to build the robust and scalable automation workflow. So when we can select this RE framework, suppose our project is more complex project. Complex project means what? We have a more decision points. Okay, so then we can call it as a more complex process. Okay, so then more complex exception. So sometimes it's happens, suppose I'm going to use a sequence and flow chart, execution time is not uniform. Okay, so then we can go with this RE framework. RE framework having three state, one, two, three. RE framework having three state, and one is the final state, and having seven transition. First state is the initialization state. In this stage, we can perform the one-time task in our project. So one-time task in our project. Initialization having three parts. One is the data initialization. We call it as a dispatcher. Second is the project initialization, means get the data from that config and put into the dictionary. Third one is the application initialization. That all part we can complete into the initialization. That is the initialization. Once I complete this initialization, we have a two probability, or we have a two transition. So my initialization goes to successful, then my execution go into the gate transition state. If getting any kind of system exception into this initialization, my execution go into the end process. In gate transition state, we are going to get the data from that collection. Collection can be anything, means it can be data table, it can be queue, it can be anything, means array or any other collection. So it is going to get the data from that collection. Once I complete this gate transition state, we have a two probability. we have a two transition. Might be getting the data from that collection, it is going to successful. Then my execution go into the process state. So getting any kind of error or get no data which is available into that collection, then my execution go into the final state and my execution goes to stop. In process state, in process state, we are going to perform the all repetitive task in our project. Once I complete this process state, we have a three probability. We have a three transition. So my process execution goes to successful, then my execution go into the get transition state for getting the new data from that collection. In process, like my process transaction state execute getting any kind of business exception, then my execution go into the get transaction data for getting the new entry. But in my process state getting any kind of system exception, then my execution go into the initialization state and retry that system exception, retry that error or retry that transition, go into the initialization, and again it is going to go into the get transition. So this loop will continue. It is going to handle by consecutive system exception number, that is a retry number. So this is nothing but a how we can explain the REFramework, means just from high level of explanation. Okay, so next video we are going to understand so transition as a queue item. So dispatcher in small dispatcher integrate with performer. Then next video we are going to understand separate dispatcher and performer. So that is my next agenda. Okay, so thanks for watching this video.